Do you think also the other issue with AOFI's Shariah Standard 62 is that a lot of people mention to be the enforceability of the standard, which jurisdiction really takes AOFI as law is only the UAE, and
Yeah.
it would lead to a lot of challenges like stamp duty, cost of increase. It's really interesting you mentioned the point about credit rating agencies, because I would have thought they would have liked something like this because it created extra work for them so they could charge more money. Whereas it's for the banks and the lawyers, it's like it could lead to fewer deals. But for the credit rating agencies, it doesn't really matter to them. They're just looking at the credit.
No, as far as I know, they have published like some negative impact about it, an estimation of negative impact, right? Because they eventually, it's right, you are right. It will not increase the work for them. It will decrease it, Hassan, because they have thought there will be less issuance. That means less work for us. But I'm not going to say this is their intention. We don't know, right? I'm just saying that they were of them the early ones who commented negatively about the impact of it, and everyone listens to them because they are the one who does the credit rating where investors can invest based on that, right? So and the taxation issues are real. You are right, but this is why when we engage with countries, when we introduce Sukuk, we make these changes in the first place. If you do not have these changes in the taxation, how on earth you started to do Sukuk? Like one of the key things we start with is, enabling Sukuk to be like an asset-backed or asset-based instrument. So I've been recently working on Sukuk legislation in Africa, and that's one of the things we started. You have to enable that Sukuk to do that, and you have to put this requirement of taxation neutrality that the second sale, for instance, whether it's sale, lease, whatever, it should not be subject to taxation. When it's sovereign sukuk, it's easy, to be honest with you. You can just get something from the Ministry of Finance. But when it's corporate sukuk, it's really the challenge. So for me, it's not the IOFI standard for taxation that has raised the issue. The issue has been there all the time because you should have created that enabling environment. We haven't talked much about creating that enabling ecosystem because conventional finance starts, the principle is money is something that you can give with excess, you know, or with a discount. That's completely against conventional finance. So when I work with the government, I look at the definition of a bank, and you will see usually banks are excluded explicitly from doing trade, lease, buying assets, except for their own use. So when we do this, the first thing we say is we either change the definition of a bank and then add Islamic banking activities, or we have a new definition of an Islamic bank where we enable them to do this. So the system is designed completely against it. And then you have to go to taxation and resolve it. When you do murabaha, what type of taxation you will have, and you fix them. But for IOFI Sukuk standard, even as you rightly mentioned, the enforceability issue, in most countries, IOFI is not even enforceable. Even in countries where they claim it's enforceable, there's a lot of interpretations of IOFI standards. It's easy to interpret IOFI standards the way you like because in most cases, sometimes they don't give like a strict yes or no. So I don't think it was 100% over exaggerated, the impact of the standard 62. And I don't think it would have had the impact that it was perceived, especially with very few countries considering IOFI as a legal or regulatory requirement. And there was a room, even within the standard itself, there was a lot of room for a leeway. In some cases, they will clearly mention that if the regulations do not allow this for a sovereign, then that is fine. But it happened, and let's see what happens with the new version of it.